This says, "Hello, Dr. Craig. I, like you, believe that God exists. However, I'm a bit skeptical on the merits of your arguments against infinite successions. In fact, Gale and Pruss encapsulated some of my suspicions within some of their most recent work." And he quotes their work. Quote, "These arguments against an actual infinity, however, are all based on a confusion between two notions of bigger than. One notion is numerical. A set is bigger than another if it has a greater number of members. The other notion is in terms of part-to-whole relations. A whole is bigger than any proper part. When dealing with finite quantities, anything that is bigger in the part-to-whole sense is also bigger in the numerical sense. But this is not so in the case of infinite quantities. Although in the part-to-whole sense there are more people in the hotel after a new guest arrives, and there are more members of the original series of events, in the numerical sense there are not. Indeed, mathematicians take the failure of the part-to-whole sense of bigger than to imply the numerical sense to be the defining feature of infinity. Now, I know some people's eyes glazed over on that, but he is quoting from the Oxford Handbook of Philosophy of Religion. Break this objection down for us.
Well, the idea here is that when you ask how many people are in the infinite hotel, the answer numerically is there are an infinite number of people. Now, if more people check into the hotel, additional people, numerically there aren't any more people in the hotel because infinity plus any natural number is infinity. So there aren't any more people. But in the what he calls the part-whole sense, there are more people in the hotel because there was the group that was already in it, and then there's the group that now has checked into the hotel, and this new group is not a part of this larger group that was already there. So in one sense, there are additional people in the hotel, not in a numerical sense, but in the sense that the whole group of people in the hotel now has persons in it that weren't there before. Now, far from eliminating the absurdity of the existence of an actual infinite, I think all this does is to elucidate it. It explains what the problem is, namely that this part-whole and numerical sense of more fall apart for infinite quantities. And you get these sort of absurdities where you have, in one sense, more people into the hotel, but in another sense, there aren't any more people in the hotel. And I find that to be simply incredible. It seems to me that that is why the actual infinite cannot exist, is because it involves this very peculiar feature. But not all of the paradoxes or the puzzles about actual infinity are based simply upon this falling apart of part-whole and numerical sizes. For example, when the people check out of the hotel and you start subtracting infinite quantities from infinite quantities, mathematically you end up with self-contradictory answers. And there, I don't think there's any escape from the argument in this sort of thing, because what you have to say is you subtract identical quantities from identical quantities, and you wind up with identical quantities. And that seems to me, again, to be absurd. So while his analysis of the situation is correct, I just don't see that it does anything to alleviate the absurdity of the real existence of an actually infinite number of things.